Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. Headline reads out the Portland Tribune about state takes on police reform. State takes on police reform. I need not mention and try to define for you what does that mean, because we're talking about police reform nationwide, if you will. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus right into our concerns right here in Oregon, the largest city in the state of Oregon, and that is Portland, Oregon. So consequently, we just happen to have one of the key entities that was part of the state reform in the legislature. They called a special session, a gentleman by the name of Lou Frederick, who happened to be the senator of the area here, a major senator of the area here within the area, who's been around for a number of years. He's also worked for media too, or whatever. So he was kind of like the key component at the state level aspect of it. Coming to Portland, Oregon, the first thing I think about, and right up front with you, see the people that are here, that is you can see on the screen almost, who are here as for part of this discussion. We got Jack, who again, he ran for city council for position number 2, Big Fish, and position number 2, Big Fish. And then we got Fred Stewart, Fred, who's run before in the past, and he's very, very active in community. He's a businessman. He's a real estate broker. He owns his own company aspect of it. And actually, I ran for mayor during that particular time. And the reason why I'm saying it is so important, and I'm going to open it up this way, is that I can still remember when one of the biggest issues was with police was community policing, and the term community policing has been tossed around, I mean, on an ongoing basis. And at that time, I really get concerned about why is it so difficult to understand what community policing is all about. Community is basically knowing your community, knowing the people you're running against, you will, are running for, and what the issues are. And that's a very, very important piece. And the first thing I thought about was that we got Mayor Wheeler who came in and he joined, and he ran for office and he won the first time around. Again, some 19 people or so ran for mayor, and yes, I ran during that particular time. And he was sort of unaware of what was going on in the community, so he was pretty left out. Even when he won, I had suggested that one of the problems he was going to have is that he just didn't have enough time to understand the community that he was going to be representing as mayor. And I had suggested that what he should do, the first thing he should do is reach out to all those folks who were running for office, have a meeting. I mean, if anybody, each of these individuals had a platform and they had knowledge, at least the folks that they were represented as to why they were running for office. Very, very important. And even this particular time, some 19 people again ran for office. And again, still, there was no, i.e. notification from the mayor's standpoint after he got into this runoff situation. Basically said, okay, fine. Now we need to meet 2 people who are now in a runoff. And the other 17 people should have been part and parts of the discussion. Media should have spent some time with an open meeting with all of these individuals at the same time to talk to, okay, what are the issues that are on the table? What an opportune time to talk about all the issues that we're concerned with, that we're going to be speaking about right here tonight. If all those folks were sitting at the table and to discuss the issue about community policing, about chief, the forms, the mission of the police bureau, who's running the police force, all these kinds of things, the changes and things that we're discussing right now. And even to this date, a lot of the issues that I think could have been resolved and put on the table if in fact they recognize the folks who are still in the race. We got 3 races right now that are sort of like in a runoff situation. We got the mayor's race and we got 2 commissioners' seats, one of which is going to be decided in August. And I think that it would have been great if we'd been able to get these folks to be interviewed and talk about their issues. That to me would be community policing. But with that being said, it's not there, but I wanted to make sure I threw that out. And naturally, I'd like to see if there was some comments from the other guys that are sitting up here with me tonight, what they felt about the idea of what is their definition of community policing. In fact, why don't we start off with that way? The whole issue of community. What is the definition of community? Jack, you ran, and what was your feeling about reaching out to the public and getting a sense of what was on their mind, and you were running for office at that particular time?
Well, I spent quite a bit of time traveling all sectors of the city, and to the people I talked with, and listened to, more importantly, listened to, they wanted to know the police in their sector. They wanted to be able to build a relationship, a rapport with the police officers that serve them. Their biggest concern was, quite candidly, there were too few police, and they didn't have the opportunity to really meet and get to know them. That included people in the business community, people that were in apartment complexes or neighborhood associations or homeowners. And that was one of the key factors that I heard time and time again against all the communities that I talked with, whether it was Asian American, Latino, or Black communities or White communities, regardless of where we were. That's the issue that they had. Now, the issues in each of those sectors may have been different, but they thought it was very important to build a relationship with the police that were there.
Okay, again, another point. What about something specific like profiling and the idea of the gang members aspect of it, and over enforcement, something like that? Or did any of those subject matters come out as you were reaching out?
Well, to be honest, when we hear about what the impression I got or the feedback I got was, if the police are there and they know the community, then the idea of profiling isn't really a concern, because the police know them and they know the police. And as far as gangs are concerned, they think that's a good thing, because let's be candid, there are gangs, organized gangs in our city, and gangs cover all spectrums of race, creed, and color. Mm-hmm. And so from their standpoint, they thought it was important that they could help the police identify who they would characterize as the bad guys, whether they're people that are criminals breaking into their homes, robbing their businesses, or trying to shake them down for money. So from that standpoint, again, the idea of community policing, they felt it was a very positive factor.
Okay. And then the last point I would be asked of you to respond to is the fact, I think it was 9 people that ran in the fish run, right? Or you were part of 9?
No, actually it was 18.
18. Gee, wow. You can just grew up just about 18 folks. But do you think that had they had an open discussion with all of you during that particular time to talk about issues in the community, just like the questions I just asked you, would that have been a benefit as far as the selection process to make sure they get the right leader?
I think it absolutely would have been. Unfortunately, because of so many things that play with a large contingent, only a few groups like the Oregonian that sent out a questionnaire, the League of Women Voters that brought in everyone to answer different questions for a short period of time. The majority of the people that were running did not focus on the issues of the city. They focused on their background and why the voters should feel empathetic or support them because of their background or their history in the city.
Okay. Fred, except you ran for office before, and when you were knocking on doors and this, that, and the other, what were some of the things that you were encountering when you were reaching out, when you were running for that city council seat? What seat was that you were running for?
Well, I ran for 2 city commissioner seats. I ran for the seat that Nick Fish used to have. That's the one that Loretta Smith is trying to get right now. Running against Dan Ryan. And then I ran for, she ran for it too. I ran against Steve Novick. Mm-hmm. I was the first one to announce to run against him. And Chloe Udaly won that seat.
Right.
She defeated all of us.
What were some of the things that you were encountering when you were reaching out to the public and talking to them? Naturally, you were on the show, you were on the Voters Digest.
Every issue that I was running for in 2008, same issues today. Not one has been resolved. Not one in 12 years. Police, of course, accountability was a big one. Community policing, and the various definitions. You know, the definition of community policing changes depending on the room you're in. That's why I tell everybody I don't walk into rooms and talk about community policing if there's any criminals in the room. And that happens sometimes when you're talking to
Only
the
you,
black
Fred.
community.
Only you, Fred.
Because black gang members will send their mamas and their aunties and their grandmas to community policing meetings. It's hilarious. It's a joke. And then, the same thing, business development. The city of Portland is even worse as far as a partner with business. The city of Portland is a great place to start a business. If you work for a big business that's located outside of Portland, it's a great place to be, to live and make good money. But it's a horrible place to grow a business. It's not very good. It's a great place to start a business, not a good place to grow a business. And the people that we've got on city council, including our mayor, they're champions of that. And then the other big one was housing issues, housing costs. What were back in 2016, rents were going up and values were going up, but they went up a little faster than they've gone over the last 5 years, but over the last 10 years. But they were going up pretty aggressive. We've got the same dynamic going right now in all factors. Not one problem that I've ever run against or run to solve has been even remotely resolved on city that the city council could have gotten into. And a lot of them, I don't know if they could have been resolved by now because some of these problems take a long time, but we'd definitely be more on a path than we are today. When it comes to community policing, we've got fewer police officers now than we had in 2008 or 2016. We've got just under 800 police officers now. We've roughly got the same size police department that we had in 1970. The only difference is on the east side, the city of Portland ended roughly at 82nd. So right now, depending on where you're at, it runs between about 150th and 181st, depending on where you're at. So there's a lot more city, and we've got almost 3 times more people that live in the city than in 1970. So we've got about 30% more land mass, and we've got about 3 times more people in Portland than we had back then. And we've got the same amount of police officers that we had in 1970.
Okay. Let me ask you another question, Fred. And from your standpoint, I was thinking in terms of when one actually basically gets the career, if you will, of a police department. Normally, you're given the job description, and in most cases, a lot of times these guys get on the job, and all of a sudden, the job description sort of expanding a lot of other issues that they were never acquainted to. And all of a sudden, there they are, hit with this whole deal, like taking care of the whole world, i.e., being a mayor, if you will, being a city council person, being a state representative, a mother, a father. I mean, the whole 9 yards. That is not part of the job description that I'm familiar with when I looked at the career deal as they're listed. Even when back in the early days, remember we used to have assemblies where it was kind of like a career day type thing, you got me? And the person from the police department would come up and say, well, this is what police do, this works, and this, that, and the other. Everybody loved the uniform, you got me? Or if not that, when do I get the first gun?
Well, you got to remember 120 years ago or so, when the city of Portland created its first police force, the main jobs of the Portland police back then was to deal with the, let's say, the unsavory people, the pimps, the prostitutes, the sailors that came in, the barry, the bars and stuff, and to keep the black people and the Native Americans and the Chinese in their place. Those are really the only 4 things that the police had to do. They didn't get into a lot of things that police get into today. And that's something that's been growing over the last 100 years. They didn't even have, they didn't even deal with traffic. You didn't even have traffic cops until, 1910? The Portland police didn't even jump into traffic until 1910. So we're talking about 110 years of them even dealing with traffic. I mean, you gotta remember, when I say dealing with traffic, when they started, we didn't have cars. We had horse and buggy. They didn't even get involved. There was no horse and buggy police officers making sure that your horse went the right speed, or that you put your horse in the right spot, and they didn't even deal with that. They dealt with people. They dealt with bad people, and they dealt with keeping the the races separated. They wanted the black people where they were at. They wanted the white, the Asians to stay where they were at. They wanted the Native Americans to stay where they're at, and that's it. And if you fell outside of those rules, they beat the hell out of you. And the same thing with the criminals. The criminals knew where they could go and do their stuff. So if you were a pimp or a prostitute and you were on the wrong street, you just got your ass kicked, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. Hey, you shouldn't have been here. What I'm getting to is law enforcement changed. And it changed along with the times. We're a more sophisticated city. We're a more educated city. The things that our values changed a lot, and people want law enforcement to reflect it. The problem is we've not elected leaders that have felt dealing with law enforcement and their political careers could mesh. So they stay away from it. You know what I mean? And they just try to bide their time. They don't want to get into the minutia of trying to come up, with a new mousetrap. And that's basically.
Well, tell me this. Wait. On another point, I'll ask both of you guys again. Define for me what is community policing.
Well, I'll tell you what community policing is.
What is very specific?
Bruce, I'll tell you what community policing is. I've been dealing with it since 1990. Okay? It is whatever the loudest person in the room says it is. It changes. And that's why a lot of police officers get pissed off when they hear about this community policing. You walk in one room, it's, hey, be nice to the old ladies. In another room, be nice to the children. Literally. In another room, hey, I know my son and my grandson, they're murderers, rapists, trafficking gang members, but please be nice to them when you arrest them. And by the way, they're, when you see them, give them milk and cookies that their fathers don't give them, because it's not my fault that my son's grown up to be a murderer and a criminal.
All right.
I mean? And then you walk into another room and it's, hey, get rid of the bums and get rid of the homeless. Right.
I get your point. I get your point. So it's an area, but again, that's not listed in the policies that you're supposed to be enforcing on. Not necessarily.
No. Bruce, police officers are to enforce the law.
Right.
When you even say community policing, you're talking about changing the definition of what they do. Because a lot of times, everybody wants a cop to not necessarily enforce every law. Like, I want you to enforce every law, but the law that I'm breaking or the law that my son's breaking. Well,
let's get Jack in. I want to get Jack in now. Oh, Jack, what is your definition?
I think there's a couple things that I'd like to bring out from this standpoint. First of all, let's recognize that the police are now have virtually no support. There's the mental health capabilities that they used to have are no longer there.
They used to have them?
Well, yes, they did. They used to be able to take them to a mental health to get a quick mental health evaluation. Of course, this is about over 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That was. I know what you're talking about. That's what they called it, Jack. But that's what it was. It was just a place to take somebody to get them off the street. They didn't.
Well, they could get a quick mental health check to see whether or not it was what the issue was or what the professional would say.
Jack, I've been on about 200 ride-alongs.
All right, just a minute. Just let me finish, please. Okay. The other factor is relative to the detox centers where they could take someone that may be having an alcohol overdose in alcohol or with a drug from that standpoint. We also have to recognize that if you listen to the voices out there that are asking for change, that are protesting, some will say they want to abolish the police completely. So we have to realize, I mean, they're talking about, just like in Seattle, the autonomous zone. Well, unfortunately, what's that resulted in is several fatalities, several deaths, several murders, people being robbed, discharge of firearms over this area. So this idea of self-policing, which several people believe, or a certain percentage of the people believe is a viable option, is one of the positions people are taking that are driving change. The other is redefine the role of the police. Some would say have the police hold up in the police stations and only come out when there's serious crime or to address a single issue. The other would talk about police training. And from that standpoint, there's a professional football player, Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Cowboys, has donated $1 million to improve the Dallas police training and to address what he calls systematic racism through education and advocacy. So there's another aspect as well. And then, of course, we talk about revamping public safety, and that's where you bring in other groups like we see in Austin, Texas, or in Eugene, where you'll call 911 and the police can then determine they bring in a special team that may be an EMT plus a mental health professional, or they bring in someone from the police, depending on the situation. So there are a lot of voices out there saying what the new police system should look like. The question is, the people that are demanding change, how many actually have that expertise and have that experience? And have they looked at actually examples across America, that areas that have worked and areas that have not worked? The one thing I would ask that concerns me deeply right now is this. How many people in high school, if you walked into the high schools across Portland and you asked them, would you like to join the police force of Portland? What kind of reactions do you think you'd get? Do you think anybody, or how many people do you think would actually say, oh, that's a great job, I'd love to join PPB? My concern is we want the best and the brightest working in our police force. But right now, with some of the attacks that we have, we're not going to get that. They're being vilified, assaulted, attacked. Now, I appreciate House of Representatives Kotek's comments about using tear gas was inappropriate. My only challenge to her is I would encourage you to do a police ride-along, and I would encourage you to stand shoulder to shoulder with the police when there are riots in our city, as well as our mayor and other members of our city council.
Gentlemen, let me share this with you. I think that, again, it's good that you guys both gave, as far as I'm concerned, a specific rationale as to what's out there. You got me? And if you know, you had a differing approach to the whole piece. And when some of the things we're talking about, maybe a way of maybe solving that problem. At one point in time, we talked about districtizing the city of Portland. Remember that? We talked about districtization. And then, Fred, you talked about the idea of these areas that you were talking about. You go from one room to another, it changes and whatever. I think about the districtization aspect of it. And if that was the case, then to me, that you would have 4 separate community policing definitions. Fair? Because you've got different kinds of people. You may have more seniors in one area than you have in another area. You may have more youth in one area. You may have more minority youth, or you may have more kids, depending upon the income rate of their family, whatever. So it varies. So I'm throwing that out to the table to say that might be one of the things that we ought to do in the city of Portland, and is districtize the city of Portland. And hopefully that responsibility, one, you would have a commissioner. You know, they would have a commissioner, city commissioner in that respective area. They probably have a precinct there in each one of those areas. And these people will be very familiar with those various areas. What do you think, guys? Districtization, as far as helping out the whole idea of defining community policing and what their responsibility would be.
I don't know. I mean, the more accurate representation any city has, the better. But that's.
I tell you what, we're running out of time, guys. But I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take this short break. We're going to come back and we're going to start with you, Fred, right where we left off. Okay, buddy.
All right.
Okay, folks, welcome back to Oregon Voters Digest. And with all due respect, we're having a little technical difficulty with one of our guests, Fred Stewart, but as soon as he gets on, we'll just get him right into the millie. He won't have any problem jumping in. Trust me. Okay, Jack, you there? Okay, fine. Okay, you're there. Okay, fine. We were talking about community policing, and just there's about 4 or 5 different areas we want to cover in other areas. I think what we want to do, we're just going on and jump and hit that on another time. But the whole idea, districtization could be an area of a solution. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and we can talk about housing and maybe getting the guys who are just recently hired, getting more to live in the area. And that's another area that we need to work on. Peace and that's right. But anyway, we can talk about that. But let's talk about that chokehold situation. The chokehold, or better yet, let's go back and finish up on the whole issue of the gas, the CS gas, the tear gas. Okay, and I guess you know of the latest thing on was that there was another so-called rioting situation or protesting in Northeast Portland, and I guess they had thrown the gas there too when they were told specifically that they would not be using the gas. So the question was, who gave the orders? And no one was there to give the orders. In all due respect, the buck should stop with the mayor basically representing the citizens or the police commissioner to begin with, because the commissioner, whoever the commissioner is, would be the one that would be basically giving up the orders. If that was policy, but we don't know. No one said anything about the whole piece. And just of late, I saw a press conference where I noticed what the mayor basically took it and said, yes, it stops here. But then he started talking about safety. And then you had the police chief, the new police chief was basically talking to, from the standpoint of the police officers' standpoint that, well, it's the safety of the officers and whatever. That's not the case. You do as you're told. This is a paramilitary kind of an operation. It's not about basically you get sent out on a mission and you're told to do it this way. It's not you're changing the course, if you will. Jack, talk about that.
Well,
tough situation.
It is a difficult situation because clearly the orders had been issued not to use tear gas.
Right.
So either that chain of command has been ignored, which is what I think is the most likely situation, or the officers felt that their lives were in danger and this is the only way for their own safety to use the tear gas as a way to break up a hostile crowd. I think, quite candidly, it does not look like it's not a better moment for the city police. It looks very bad from what we're seeing right now. Obviously, this is the time that we need an investigation to really understand, has the chain of command broken down? And if it has, my goodness, what in the world do we need to do to get this change? This change. This is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a new police chief. I understand that. I understand that we've had now over 30 days of demonstrations and we've had rioting on many of these days. We've had violence that's broken out and we've had destruction of businesses. I understand that. But clearly the order had been given not to use tear gas anymore unless their lives were a threat. And everything would indicate that was not the case. So this is not a better moment.
Right. And as you said, the chain of command, I think that's a subject matter that really needs to be looked at and discussed. And the mayor needs to understand that, you know what I'm saying? And I realized the guy wasn't former military and he wasn't in that culture like you and I were. We understand that. And in all due respect, he didn't have anybody around him that could do that, if you will. And the media didn't help him out that way because they don't have that kind of a background. But that's a very, very important point. In fact, it's the most important point as far as I'm concerned towards resolving a lot of the issues that they're dealing with right now. Someone has to be in charge. And in our present city system for the city of Portland, the mayor is the mayor, and then you got the police commissioner, either assigned to the mayor or one of the city council person. And then normally you try to go through those rank and file and find the best person who's a bit more familiar, i.e. with community and the issues of the police aspect of it. And in all due respect, this straight out, talking from the city standpoint, it seems as though that the newly elected city council, who am I thinking about now? I'm thinking about Joanne Hardesty.
Right.
Joanne Hardesty, who had been very much involved in District 2 of the county and in Northeast Portland. And she was always involved with that piece because police and her and others would have meetings, and they would all be gathering and talking about various issues and this, that, and the other in regards to the police. And so she basically had some background, let's put it that way. And I think it would have been a better selection had the mayor selected her, and he could have kept what he gave her was the fire department and the 911 situation. You got me? And even now, to date, she's now trying to get police work where she's at, and he's in charge of the police department as commissioner.
Right. Right.
So consequently, the blame goes to him, and you could see that when this issue with the tear gas thing came up. If in fact it was an issue, that issue should have gone to her, and I think that there would have been some more discussions on the front end. And knowing her attitude and how she was, she would have clearly said, "This is what you will be doing from this day forward," and actually getting together with police. Now the thing is that who is the chief?
Right.
Let's talk about who is the chief. Yes, we do have a young man. His name is Chuck LaBelle. He's newly around, and his community policing has been because he's been around for quite some time. In fact, he spent a lot of time at the Jefferson High School. So consequently, he had the opportunity to meet the kids, the families, and this, that, and other in the community. He wasn't doing street work. He wasn't doing the hardcore stuff aspect of it. So, but bottom line, he was very familiar. Okay, he may be familiar with from the standpoint of the school thing in time, but this other part is another issue. Now, whether or not he's going to be getting the respect from the line officers, if you will, that's another issue. And normally the line officers are pretty well acquainted with, i.e., the president of the union of the police force.
Right.
And in all due respect, he does not wear a uniform. He doesn't uniform purposely because he is not a policeman sitting in that position. He's a union person. And we've got many union facilities, union issues and whatever, and other areas throughout the city, throughout the state for that matter. Union is very key. But the fact of the matter is, they're not, quote, the corporate president of a company. Got me? The corporate president is a whole different ballgame. They are union representative. They represent when an issue comes up, but they're clearly not the lead person. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, that's an issue that needs to be discussed because, in all due respect, Daryl he's a policeman that was trained through the police department, and then he picked up the job. But the union pays his salary, and also the city. It's a half and half. The union pays a little bit more, but he represents the union. So he basically runs the line troop. Go on, Jeff.
One concern I have is the way that Daryl is speaking to the press. He is speaking as if he is the chief of police
and
or
mayor,
the police commissioner, and he is not.
That's right.
He is the union rep for.
That's right.
PPD.
That's right. And I think, and in all due respect,
I got a problem with that too.
I think he knows that. I think it, Fred. Oh, by the way, for your on your thing, you can see your hand. It's kind of like a distraction, Fred.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So there you go. No problem. Why don't you jump in now? Okay, fine. We got the technicality done here now for a minute. We got Fred back on the scene and look like you at the right time and whatever. What do you think about the definition of the union basically representing the police department, or if not the chief? Because we got a new chief.
Well, the union doesn't represent the chief. The chief, there's two unions for the police department. There's a union for the command staff, and that includes, the chief doesn't even have a union. The chief has a contract. But all the other people, when you become a lieutenant and above, there is another union we never hear about just for them. And then there's a union for everybody else in the police department.
I'm talking about the line troops, Jeff.
Yeah, now that's when you're talking about with Daryl. Daryl needs to go. Daryl is not the man to lead the Portland police through where they're at. And the union is part of the problem. Look, I love my Portland cops. I got a lot of friends. I got a couple of people that are almost family that are Portland cops. But I'm going to tell you, their union has been part of the problem. And that's one of the reasons why Daryl's not the right guy. Daryl's sitting up here acting like he's a mayor of damn Portland, and he is just a union rep. He's not representing my police officers very well.
Well, clearly, okay, now, Fred, let's be clear now. union reps are union reps. I mean, understand where I'm coming from. Every union rep that I know acts like a union rep. They represent the individual once an issue comes up.
No, Bruce.
Listen,
Bruce.
listen what I'm saying. Listen to
I'm
what
not
I'm
disagreeing
saying.
with you. I'm
Listen,
talking about what we need.
listen.
I'm talking
No,
about what we've had in the past.
Daryl don't need to go. Daryl don't need to go. He just needs to be a union rep,
Daryl needs to go.
not the mayor or the chief of police.
Now, Daryl needs to go. He needs to go back to. He's close to retirement. We need new blood. We need somebody younger. We need somebody more open-minded than Daryl. If Daryl wants to stay in Portland after he's retired and run for office, I welcome the opportunity for him to do that.
Well,
But
tell me, Fred, are you suggesting that we get another person and they will basically sit in that seat and basically wear civvies and be the same
We need
thing?
somebody younger. We need somebody younger. We need somebody who's going to be is already more in tune with the type of law enforcement that the people of Portland want in the future. We've got a lot of people that are too stuck in their ways and are too stuck in their own, PTSD. I'm not talking about just for cops. I'm talking about individuals too. We're not going to get the change we want with some of the people that we've got in place right now. That's why we're in a great opportunity here with the city council.
Are you saying that then that person will act as a union rep and not the mayor or the police
Exactly. We need somebody who's more of a union rep and somebody who can communicate effectively to the Portland police what the citizens want and what they're going to be able to get and not get, instead of feeling like they can go and beat the hell. I mean, Daryl feels like he can go down to downtown Portland and beat the hell out of city council and get what he wants.
But that's the culture. It was there to begin with.
No, Bruce, that's the culture we got to get away from.
I'm agreeing with you. No, I'm agreeing with you, Fred. Okay,
I know.
We don't want the same thing.
All right, and that's why he's got to go. And we need somebody probably younger. We need somebody that has got some natural leadership abilities that don't require them to feel like they got to walk into the room and beat everybody up.
Now, he's under contract, okay?
He's under contract.
And by the way, now take this out now.
He's not under contract with the city.
No, you got no, understand. No. They've got a contract with the union. The city has a contract with the union. The city has signed off in terms of his job description. That's a fact. You got to remember that.
Bruce, you're talking about change. Things got to change.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just letting you know what is.
Let's say that I knew that, but I'm just saying, so what? He's got to go.
Well, it's not about he got to go. If you want to he just got to check with his boss, so to speak.
No, what I'm trying to say is the changes that they're going to need to see with the union rep. You're not going to get that with Daryl. Daryl is not going to work very well with the community. He's not going to work very well with the new city council. He needs to go.
All right, let's get another piece. Now let's talk about some of these other areas of major concern. We talked about the tear gas stuff. What about the whole issue with the chokehold?
Well, the chokehold is, I don't blame the cops. The cops have been trained to do the chokehold. I've gone through police training in Portland, not the total one, but where, as an observer and as a participant, as a community member. I've gone through it about 3 times over the last 25 years. And in each time, they taught the chokehold, which I'm comfortable with because, Bruce, I was taught the chokehold when I was in the Marines. I think you were too. The chokehold has been around for a long time. Now, does that need to go? Maybe. If the community doesn't trust it anymore, it needs to go.
Okay, that's it.
All right.
Jack, wait a minute, Jack. What do you say about the chokehold?
I think there's a couple things we have to recognize.
Real quick.
Is that some cities will have outlawed the use of certain forms of, let's say, the chokehold, if you want to use the chokehold, because of the risk of fatality. Cities like New York have now instructed their policemen not to use the chokehold under any circumstance unless their lives are extreme danger. The other factor is in the case of Minnesota, where he had his knee on the young man's neck. the young man was already handcuffed. That was excessive, without any doubt. And I've seen police on Twitter and social media, and friends of mine say the same thing. That was an uncalled for act.
Well, that
So-
image is solid. Jack, hold on for a minute. Hold on, Fred. Hey, go on. I'm sorry, Jack. Go on. He had the floor. Go on, Jack.
I was going to say that uncalled for.
Jack had the floor, Fred. Hold on for a minute.
No, that was it. I'm finished.
Okay, good.
The
Now, what-
uncalled for part was, I mean, I agree with Jack. The
Watch your hands,
uncalled
buddy.
for part
Watch your hands.
was the issue is the uncalled for part is that the guy was on his back, on his neck, too long.
Right.
Cops are trained to do that maneuver when they arrest people. They are told to do that, and that's why the other cops, I'm not trying to defend them, probably why they didn't know. They're trained to do exactly what he did. The problem is he was on his neck too long. Once he was subdued, once he was handcuffed, the cop should have got off his back, should have got off his neck.
Right.
The other cops that were there, they're doing crowd control. They hear people yelling and screaming. They're in defense mode. Now, that doesn't mean there wasn't some derelict.
To be fair, two of those other officers were very young. They had less than a few weeks on the job.
Exactly.
So that's two of them. The third one, yes, he should have stepped in. It's just
He
like
should have
the
stepped
military.
in. But the thing is, the maneuver wasn't something that cops have never seen before because they're taught to do that.
Right.
And that's what I've been telling people. A lot of the problem with our police officers, police department, is it hasn't been updated to today's value.
Right.
These guys are trained to do a lot of these things. We literally say, hey, go out there, young man, and this is what you do, and this is how you do it. And then, yes, we've got some bad cops that see this as an opportunity to be abusive. You know what I mean? I've put people in chokeholds before in altercations in the community, and I didn't kill anybody. You know, thousands of times every day, cops put people in chokeholds. Thousands of times a day, cops put their knee on somebody's back or their neck, and they don't kill anybody. Nobody gets hurt.
Right.
Well, we get your
Particular
point.
cops.
We got your point. But as you know, the masses of people, the people who are paying the bill, saw that image. That image is in their mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Bottom line, they have to get away from the chokehold, at least from the interim, and then come back with a training program that basically replaces it. That's going to be tough because you like you said, we're taught in the Marine Corps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're right. But the bottom line is that that's in the image of the people who make the decisions, and that's the voting public. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, the people that are going to be making the decisions are going to have to break some bad news sometimes to both sides, to all sides. You know, we've got some bad people out there, Bruce. We've got some people out there that want to harm people. And the last thing I want them to think is that they don't have anything to worry about when the police show up. You know what I'm talking about?
I agree.
And the thing is, some of these people that are screaming, defund the police, some of these people out there that are screaming, the police are always bad, a lot of times they're criminals or they're having sex with criminals. You know what I'm talking about? There's an ulterior motive here. And we need the police. The police are very important to a peaceful community. But at the same respect, we got to understand where we're at right now. A lot of these cops, they're trained to do what we're seeing. And we're looking at it right now, and we're seeing we don't like it. We need to make some changes. Okay? And we got to take every change seriously.
Okay, we got that. As you know, that's what we're in this discussion right now. What we're trying to do, we're trying to give them some ideas in terms of what they need to do because they're in charge and they're calling the shots. And I'm talking about the voting public.
Correct.
That needs to be clearly known by even those officers or all the employees that are being paid by the public. Now,
you're right.
The chain of command aspect of it. What about the mayor? I'm talking about our present mayor. Do you feel that he's qualified to pick up the police commissioner's job? Should he not maybe assign that to another city council person? Because otherwise,
unfortunately, it's not going to work. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about.
I'm just asking you a question,
Bruce. I'm going to answer your question. I'm trying to because I got experience with this, Bruce, and I'm not.
You got experience. Oh yeah, okay.
Bruce. It has never worked when the mayor wasn't the police commissioner. One of the things Charles Jordan told me was one of the biggest mistakes he made as a city councilman was allowing himself to be city commissioner. Okay, I mean, not city commissioner, but a police commissioner. There is a unique relationship in the charter between the mayor and the chief that allows a fluent chain of command. Now, you could say, well, Fred, I got a lot of trust in Joanne. Joanne could be a good police commissioner, especially if she ever runs and becomes mayor. But as a commissioner, no. Chief can tell her to go kiss his ass. And you say, well, Fred, if a chief tells a city councilman who's police commissioner, what's the difference between that and telling a mayor? The mayor is the only person on council, and it doesn't matter if you're a city commissioner or not. The only one on council that can fire a police chief, because even if you're a city commissioner and you want and you become a police commissioner, you're in charge of the police bureau. Even if you want to fire the police chief, guess what you got to do? You got to call the mayor up and ask the mayor to do it for you.
Okay, Fred. Now you made your point. You made your point about the chief.
Okay.
But what about the rest of the citizens? What about why couldn't they bring this up to the discussion and then we could vote on it and throw it publicly?
Because it's a charter issue. Because Bruce, when I'm talking about the charter issue,
are we talking about change? Are we talking about change or not?
Well, no, we are talking about change, and maybe we need to change this in the charter. But that's another discussion.
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's what
Yeah.
So that's something that is on the table, right?
Yeah, maybe we need to change it. But we can also look at it this way. Who do we feel right now, until we change the charter, is more likely to be able to manage the Portland police? Do you want Ted Wheeler or that Sarah Ihomie woman? I forgot. I can't always butcher her last name.
Same here. Yes, same here.
But you know what I mean? She should shorten that when she runs for office. Anyway, the problem is, who's going to be better? Do you think, Ted or Sarah? And that's a good question, because the changes that the people of Portland want to see are not going to be easy changes to be able to be made. That whoever's the mayor is going to have to be somebody who's got a good enough backbone to look at this police force that is already depressed. This is probably the lowest morale the Portland police has ever had, and say, we're not even halfway there yet. We got changes we got.
Okay. Well, on that particular note, okay, to a certain degree, I agree, but I don't agree, so to speak. I'm saying we have an opportunity. We got the coronavirus situation. We got some major issues that are sitting on the table aspect of it. But the way it's sits right now, the so-called acting mayor right now, in all due respect, happen to be Joanne Hardesty. I mean, she's into the police department as it is. She's taking some of their work, if you will.
I don't know. Joanne's got such a negative opinion on police. I'm not sure.
I'm not talking about. No. She happens to be a city council person. Of all the city councils that are sitting there right now, I mean, they're just not. I mean, the one person that Wheeler identifies with is Joanne Hardesty. Had he not been running for office at this point in time, it might be a little change. But right now, he's using her, if you will, to get across that goal come November. That's really what's happening. And she's out there doing her thing. And we're sort of fortunate because she's had some experience and some exposure with the police department. Okay, that's fair. See, so I'm just saying right now, that's what I was talking about. Right now, we have the opportunity to look at the possibility of having a city commissioner be a police commissioner. You see what I'm saying? Because of the situation that we're in.
Bruce, I hope we don't do
discussion. No, we have no.
Bruce, I hope we're not going to get where we want to be.
No, what I'm saying to you, we got a public out there right now, like you're saying. They're saying, hey, cut the budget, do this, and we got sides. And the young folks, a lot of the young folks are saying, hell no, just get rid of them. They have no ideas of what do we do next. But the fact of the matter is,
the only one that are saying get rid of them, I'm guaranteeing you, are criminals or they're having sex with criminals. Your average Portlander is not saying get rid of the police. Don't believe the hype. The media, I've been down to these protests a couple times, Bruce.
I know you do. Let's see what Jack says. What do you say about
I started to say this. First of all, the question earlier that you asked between Ted and Sarah, I think it's a very simple question to answer. And I think we had 49% of the people vote for Ted before, and a choice between Ted and Sarah. To me, it's very straightforward. It's Ted Wheeler. He has done some good things, and her experience and her positions on a wide range of issues, from the police to business, causes me great concern, and it causes other people I know across the city great concern as well. So now you're down to, okay, let's assume Ted Wheeler is reelected. If he were to put, and I agree it is an unusual case, Commissioner Hardesty as chief of police, she would bring with her the credibility to work with different groups in the city that have challenged the police, and I think would work in a constructive manner. And certainly, quite candidly, has more of a vested interest. So if someone has got a vested interest in a position and a program, I think that's a very important step. She would be able to take that on with passion, and I think she's an intelligent, logical person. And having served in the military like she has, she does understand the chain of command. So I think I actually agree with you, Bruce, that I think that if I were looking for a police commissioner, Joanne Hardesty would be the candidate that I would say would be the most logical one.
Look, I'm going to go ahead. I mean, you guys are crazy. I do not think Joanne.
Hold on.
I do not think people are going to be.
Fred, hold on, my brother. Everything cool? Lieutenant, Fred, Lieutenant. Okay, look here. I just want to respond to Jack just for a moment. I'm saying, look, she doesn't have the title right now between now and November. Give her the title.
I agree.
Yes, see, I mean, Ted's already working with her, so just give her the title. It'll ease some of this pressure off of him, because he has to make decisions over here on this end of it. And then she's already doing some things, and then boom, we carry it forward, because they're the only two. And then that way, he then brings the other commissioners to the table to talk about this issue. And we got two commissioners. Just listen to one man. Then you can come on in with your sex offenders and whatever, the pimps. I'm talking about trying to get some things. We got a public out here. We got a problem. We got a divide here, big time. We got young people out in the street. That bothers me. Okay, that bothers me. We got the whole issue of race. That bothers me. Some heavy stuff. So some way, shape, or form, we got to kind of put some sense of leadership in the terms of the representation of this city, and that's where I'm coming from.
Bruce, my feeling is Ted's got to grow up there. He's got to become more of a strong individual than he has been. He's got to stop sitting around fancy-girling his way in this leadership thing. 2, Bruce, do you really think Joanne Hardesty is going to be able to hire more police officers? Do you really think Joanne is going to attract the type of people we need to get in the streets and face the threats to our community? When you've got a police department that is demoralized like it is, when you've got a community as a whole, nationwide, do you think she's going to walk in the room and make these people feel good about being cops again? Bruce, you're crazy if you think that she's that type of person.
Okay,
you've known her as long as I have. And I know you may be playing politics, but no,
I'm not playing.
You got a better shot with Ted being police commissioner than Joanne. And I like Joanne, but are you kidding me?
No, look,
Fred, are you kidding me? I'm actually laughing about that.
Yeah, but you're not on city council. Remember, you're just out here.
Not yet. Hell, I'm gonna tell you something.
Look here.
That make me run. Jesus. If she became police commissioner, hell, I might go run.
Fred,
you guys are crazy.
Fred, now listen to what I've got to say to you very carefully. Ted is right. Ted is there. He's not going to leave. He's allowing her to be the police commissioner now, right now, today.
Well, hey, he's playing the defense.
I know that if Joanne walks up to you, I know if Joanne walks up to you and slaps you upside the head, you straighten up with no problem. He's a police commissioner. You wouldn't say anything to him.
Oh my God, Bruce, come on! That's like putting somebody in the Coast Guard in front of a platoon of Marines. Are you kidding me? Bruce, no. Bruce, this is funny. There's somebody out there watching this laughing at this. No way, Bruce. She's got to recruit. Do you understand? We got less than 800 cops on the street, and we should be at about 1,500. I mean, this woman's not going to be able to get 100 people to join.
Well, I tell you what,
Oh my God.
we're getting close to the end of the deal. But the bottom line, we got a new chief in Chuck Lavelle. And boy, I tell you, I think he'd be a pretty good recruiter if he's allowed to be. And he can be the chief. And I know that, in all due respect, with Joanne's background in the military, to a certain degree, she's going to.
Oh my God, Bruce! Come on, she's Squid. She's Navy. And she didn't do very well. Oh my God!
But she, maybe carries the check. But anyway, the bottom line is that we're looking for solutions. And the bottom line, because Ted's got some pretty heavy stuff. The man's just going through a divorce right now at this point in time. I mean, the press is constantly asking him to just
that should make him meaner.
He resigns. They're getting in the front of his house and this, that, and the other. My point is that there's a lot on this, and it takes this whole village. It takes all of us working together. And my concern is that I want to get out there now, but that's not my lane. I'm not elected. Sure, I ran, and sure, I'm kind of saying I'm at the table until September or November, whatever. And that's why we're doing the show, and that's why we're here. But we got to start talking about solutions, okay? And this is what we have to work with. We got Ted, we got Joanne, we got Shoya Daly, and who was the other one that she's getting ready to leave? She's not even involved in the deal. What's her name? I don't even know her name anymore. She's
Amanda
retired.
Fritz.
Amanda Fritz.
I mean, Amanda
she should be on the
just
job.
coasting.
She's getting paid. She's getting paid every day. I want her on the job. I want her to get out there in the riots and the protesting and talk to people. Look here, folks. This has been very exciting. Fred has endorsed Joanne Hardesty to be police commissioner. Okay? She'll be reporting to you, Fred. Okay, folks.
Oh
We'll see
my
you
God!
later. Fred has made the decision. We got
You
peace.
guys
and
are
quiet.
killing me.
No problem with any
You guys
marches
are killing
anymore.
me.
Fred is going to be there arm in arm with Police Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. Have a good evening, folks.
Oh my God!
4th of July. Enjoy your 4th. I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. Take it easy. Have a good one. Lady of Roses. We love you. Ted and Joanne. Oh, I tell you, what a group. Man,
Got a better shot with Ted,
No,
police commissioner, than Joanne. And I like Joanne, but are you kidding me?
No, look at Fred.
Are you
Fred,
kidding me?
Fred,
I'm
Fred.
actually laughing about that.
But you're not on city council. Remember, you're just out here.
Not
Oh.
yet. Hell, I'm gonna tell you something.
Look here.
That make me run. Jesus. If she
Fred,
became a police commissioner, hell,
Fred,
I might go run.
Fred.
You guys are crazy.
Have a good evening, folks.
Oh my God.
Enjoy your 4th of July. I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. Take it easy.